Today we are going to plant up these little votive candle holders, and we actually use these as a terrarium. And a lot of people have been purchasing these here at Ben Sells. We have a lot of fun with these. And I've gathered some plants. I'm going to do two different styles. A succulent one and then just a regular foliage type one. And we often even just plant them up in moss, and the moss loves it when it's cooler out, so it's not going to last forever throughout the summer, and if it's hung in a bright sunny window it may not do as well. So we're going to kind of do a very shaded garden, and then we're going to do a little succulent garden. So these are really popular. You can actually use fish line to tie these up. It's translucent, so you can, it looks like you have these little glass balls hanging from the ceiling or from a hook, however you do it. You can use all different colors of ribbons. We even use copper wire, and so those are kind of fun items to hang them with. And so I have just some very simple ingredients. You don't have to go out and spend a ton of money, and the beauty of it is they always look really nice regardless of what you're doing. So I'm just going to go ahead. We're using our soil here at Ben Sells, what we grow in, and I'm going to use this type of soil for both my mossy shadier plants as well as for my succulent plants. And it's nice because through the glass you get to see what the soil looks like inside. So I'm just going to pretty much using my hands. It might be kind of dusty at first, and when you're planting you might have a little bit of dust floating around, but when you water it in it will settle. You can always get a little paintbrush in there and flick away at the plants as well. So I have a little bit of soil in here. What I want to do is I want to kind of build it up in the back. We're going to start with our mossy garden first. So I'm kind of building up the soil line on the back because I'm going to create a little hillside. And these are such small little spaces. You don't want to overdo it. I'm not going to cram 5 different plants in here. It's just there's not enough root space in there for that. So I've chosen a couple different things. I didn't know which one I wanted to use. This is a strawberry begonia, and if I use this one, what I would do is I would literally pinch off the largest leaves. It's kind of a bonsai technique. And now what I've done is I've taken away the larger leaves and left the small ones so that the actual size composition fits and looks right inside something this small. You don't want something really, really big in there growing. It just doesn't look right. And that's something that you'll do throughout the growing time in this. And whenever you see a big leaf developing, you'll just get in there and pinch it off and keep this little container manicured. This is a little peperomia, and I like this plant. I use this quite a bit in my terrariums. It's just the color's beautiful. The new growth is a pretty chartreuse. And I just kind of play with the roots a little bit, keep them kind of pinched off, and I'm just going to stick it in here. Place it wherever you want because everything else just kind of falls away. I'm going to just kind of tap my soil around here. I'm going to push it up, and I put it right in the center. Then what I've done, we have a lot of moss growing here all over the benches in the greenhouse. I love the moss that have the little spores growing on it, and I'm just going to break off a few pieces of the moss. You can kind of tear it open and make a line, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to tuck it around my peperomia. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to go up and around the sides. Here's where any little stick will do. You have a pencil, just kind of get in there because my hand can't get inside. I'm just going to push the moss around, and I'm going to do a little bit towards the back over here. The nice thing that this moss does, and if you don't want to use moss you can use stone, is it kind of holds the soil in place so that when you water it the soil doesn't fall out. So I've got a little amount of moss around there, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple different stones and I'm going to place them just alongside my plant, and they'll settle. The soil will fall up and around them. I'm going to put one here And I have one that's a little bit flat and gray. I'm going to make sure I don't go up over the top of my mouse spores. I'm going to plant him back here. You might have tiny little figurines or something like that you want to stick in there. You can do that. You could take a little bit. I have a little bit of ground up clay, little turfus. I have a little section in the front of my little pot here that I'm going to add a little stone to. And it is that simple. And then when you water it in, you're going to go very, very slowly. Once these things are established, what's really kind of fun is you get to tilt it back a little bit, add the water, and you will see the soil turn from a very light color when it's dry to a nice dark color. And if there's too much water, you'll see standing water in here, you'll be able to just stick it forward a little bit and all that excess soil will run out. It's very simple. The other one that I'm going to do is going to be in this teardrop style, is going to be your succulent type of garden. Now, succulents have been really taking off a lot, and you can get into a lot of greenhouses and find all your succulents. I chose these because a lot of succulents grow small little babies at the base, at the top, and if you're putting together a really cool container for summer with your succulents, you might want to choose one that might have a little extra little baby off to the side. And then you can use the little baby to plant up a little glass terrarium. Now we're using these little glass votive candle holders, but this works just as well with any little glass vase that you might want to plant up too. So I took, this is an aeonium, and I just took and trimmed off one little baby. And he's a little bit long still, so I'm going to take off his side leaves. I'm going to pinch those off, and I'm going to leave just a very small amount of stem here. We'll set him to the side, and then I'm going to choose 3 different succulents. And then we have this guy. This is beautiful. I chose him because he's got a little red tip. This has a little red edging. So I'm going to take him. He's a tall, narrow guy. I'm going to cut him off about 1 inch. Take off the bottom little stems from him too. Lay him off to the side. And then here's a little, this is actually a tropical sedum. This is called sedum top of the world. And it grows very low to the ground. It's kind of delicate, but what I like about it, and you can get a little pot of this, but it's got little stems, and we only need a small little section. I'm going to trim this off. So if you're putting together, see, all of these will fit together in a nice pot. They're beautiful, and you're growing them on, and they're making babies all summer long. And all of a sudden you come into the fall and you want to trim up these guys, and you can make little terrariums with them and bring them inside in the wintertime. But now I've got 3 little tiny little succulents. They're all about the same size, but they're all different shapes and a little bit different feel, but they have some similar colors to them. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with our little mossy garden. And I'm going to use our regular potting mix again. I'm not going to use it in just sand, although you could. I do like the potting soil. You could put a little stone in there and all that. Sometimes people forget to water if they put it in a hot window, sunny window. It heats up inside here. And you could scorch these little guys even though they are succulents. So I've got my soil in here again. And now I'm just going to place these guys. And this one I'm going to place him, I'm going to push him off to an angle. I'm not putting him straight up and down. I'm going to set him in and push him in at an angle. I'm going to take this little guy that's more tall, and I'm going to stick him in there. Tweezers work too. I, of course, quickly gathered my supply, so I'm just going to try my fingers. I'm going to just push a little bit of soil around him. So he's in there now. I'm not going to use any moss. because it's just not going to take the watering. And then this little guy, because he is a creeper, he kind of comes alongside and grows around there. I think it'd be kind of neat if he could just grow and fall out of the opening in the front. So I'm going to set him to the up to the front part of the opening, the little sedum. And I have one little stone. And what's kind of fun about stones is you can either put them in upright, you can lay them down flat. I'm just going to come in here and set him down flat. I'm going to tuck him in, because every time you look out at landscapes, you usually see something growing off to the side of the stone. So I'm just going to pretend like this little guy's growing off to the side of the stone. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with this ground up stone that I have and just top dress the soil. And if this works itself into the actual soil, even the better, because it just helps break up the root system a little bit. And it is as simple as that. Just going to get this on the side. I'll have to lift up my little branches here, my little stems. We're going to water this guy, and I'm just going to lift this one up because I put stone right on top of his little petals. I'm just going to use my little spoon here, the edge of it. And you can always come back after your soil settles, after you water it, add a little bit more stone if some of it moves around. And there you go. 2 little containers. One of these would be great for a good sunny spot. And then this guy would be good for a low light area. 2 very simple, very inexpensive ways to plant up a little terrarium.